I'm James Kokoska, the CTO at NetAlly, and I'm going to talk about site security. All right. So, I mean, in fact, Lee would be the classic cynic to jump in here, like, oh, isn't it funny how everybody last year was a work from home company, And so, of course, we make hand goobers, so it doesn't it's, as opposed to software agents, right? So that wasn't quite true, but the security landscape's big, right? So I'm not pretending to take down any large portion of it, but it really started to become clear to us that there was value in having a portable dispatch handheld tool and what it could do in terms of site security validation. And if you think about it, that's where the sprawl is, right? That's, there's a lot of security stuff is about aggregation, firewalls and DDoS and kind of these single points of things coming in. Really the Wild West, though, is at the edge, where everything gets fanned out and you're dealing with endpoints and devices. And it's not even this simple, right? The reality is, there's a lot of complexity. Our average customer manages our customers manage on average 5 sites, and within any site, you're dealing with different VLANs for segmentations across lines of business, or overlay networks or legacy devices. You're carving out SSIDs for a variety of reasons. You got a lot of IoT and headless devices coming on, right, where you don't even have a screen on to see what's going on. It's a mess, right? There's just a lot going on here. And what was interesting to me was that one of the better reports out there is the Verizon. Every year they put out this data breach investigation report where they go and look into every breach that happened, and of course that's daunting these days, on a daily basis. But really, the thing that was on the rise the most was misconfiguration, right? And if you break that down, how complicated it is to provision these networks, right? There's just so much going on, right? You're whether a command line guy, you're doing it from the cloud with some sort of artificial intelligence or whatever, or you're scripting and coming into APIs. There's just a lot going on there, and so it's really no surprise that misconfiguration, is really the biggest thing on the rise in terms of breaches, right? And I had seen this kind of all along on our product, right? I'd be in a public venue and I'd be like, hey, what's this SNMP agent? And oh, there's the wireless LAN controller. They didn't change the SNMP credentials from public or private, right? So defaults are a big deal. 1, 2, 3, 4s, blah 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 blah. But when you look at a lot of this stuff, right, the Equifax breach, right, which is, I always think of this now as the breach for which it makes it hard to buy a cell phone because I need to basically call into the credit people anyway. But it was about segmentation. You look at best practice documents. It's all about, hey, segmentation is the groundwork for preventing lateral movements in your network, right? It's almost like we're starting to accept, well, they're going to get your password through a phishing attack or through this or that or whatever, but let's limit the damage, right? Even now you're looking at, on the ransomware stuff, it's air gap your storage, and so it's really about managing the lateral movement. And so when I started thinking about Wi-Fi, where this kind of started to strike me was in this whole is in this isolation segmentation is this the interesting area of and one of the weird things is it actually has so many different names, right? It's some vendors call it Wi-Fi isolation, some call it AP isolation, some call it client isolation. Morocco even here's a new one, hairpinning, right? But there's kind of this weird push-pull between allowing clients to see one another, or not allowing clients to see one another, which would be the best for security, but allowing bonjour and layer 2 discovery protocols and Chromecasting and the things you would want to do to happen. So when I first started seeing this back when we were flying, right, I was like, this is interesting. How cool is this? I'm on a plane and I'm seeing everybody's device names, or most people's device names, well, that's interesting. And that was on the handheld, right? Well, as we developed this topology mapping, it really started to become clear to me because, basically anywhere I go, I take my Etherscope with me and I treat it as a test bed, right? So I went to get an oil change and wow, I'm seeing Don's iPhone and Gabby's MacBook Air and Zachary's iPad and all this other stuff. Just connecting the Etherscope to their public Wi-Fi. I saw at Lifetime. Oh, look, IP addresses for all these devices. I saw it in retail, right? And you can. What's interesting here is you can see the IP addresses are only on the public Wi-Fi. I don't know why I didn't get that one, so this comes back to some of the fundamental work we did in Etherscope to break the layer 2 ceiling, right? This is where we said, hey, Wi-Fi has predominantly been about MAC visibility because you can't see the rest, but we think we can, if you can connect to that SSID, we can do an active discovery through the wireline, marry up the MACs, and take something that would normally look like a Han-Hai MAC and basically give you all the names coming out of that thing and what it is. And then once you've got a layer 3 address, of course, you can go gonzo with tools, right? You can point a web browser at it. You can do anything. So architecturally, right, we have the test radio. It's scanning all the channels and going through, but then you have the connectivity radio, and you can control what ports. It's called the Wi-Fi management port. We're discovering out, and so we're connected to this network, and we're basically, watching traffic, seeing ARP and stuff like that, registering devices, doing ARP sweeps, and kind of cataloging everything through here. So let me flip to a demo here. So here I am in a retail setting, and normally you would see this, and this is our topology map, right? I literally did a 30-minute walkthrough survey that I'll show you in a second of this facility, and while I was buying some stuff, So basically, you can come in here and I can say, well, hold it, let's show names, right, or the best information we have about these devices. Well, now you can see we've got IP addresses and we have AP names and all this, so you can see, hey, I'm connected to this AP, and then you might be like, well, hold it, some of these are MACs, some of these are IPs, but let's just label the edges with SSIDs, right? And now you can see that, in fact, anything that was on the same guest network as me, I was able to get the IP addresses for things like, here's a scanner gun, right? It's off on its own thing. I'm not even sure what this is or what the purpose of this SSID is. As you all know, there's tends to be half dozen or more SSIDs carved out per site. But here's where it really gets interesting, right? It wasn't just this. As I walked through the facility, these were all the other relationships. But what you're starting to see here is this is I guess I'm kind of also introducing is topology for Wi-Fi, right? We're all used to heat maps and survey, but we haven't really talked about topology. And I'm seeing across the entire store all the other things. In fact, here I'm seeing an Epson printer that's hooked up on the guest Wi-Fi, and there's its interfaces, and there's even some description stuff I got because the SNMP is still set for out-of-box defaults, right? And so you kind of just see the scope of that. It's pretty amazing, and there's so many different ways to use topology. But one thing you can just do is, just as you come out, each of these representing an AP, and this is just what we saw on a 30-minute walkthrough as I was shopping, automatically discovered. But you could come in here and let me come to this guy here, and I know this get a little dense. We have controls for spreading these out, but let me pick this guy because he looks like he's the biggest. So here's this AP. Here's his SSIDs, right? So we got 9 total SSIDs coming out of him. And there's the one I was connected to, of course. You can start to see the channels. In fact, I could look at this AP and say, hey, this guy here, AP0001, well, gosh, since he's kind of the busiest out of this whole topology map, where does he live, right? So and this is one of the beauties of Link Live in the cloud, right? You can open as many browser windows or tabs as you want. In fact, you'll see here, I'm going to mark through these tabs. So I can come over here and say, okay, let me come into my filters, right? I tell you, one thing that's kind of underrated in this whole gig is, we did these progressive filters, right? And so without doing anything, even looking at anything, just the fact that I can come in and go security, what's open? And I'll show you one other cool feature we just put in yesterday. Used to be I'd look at a list there and I always had to go back, oh, that's what I want. I got to go back up and deselect all and then select the one I want. Well, now you can just basically double click on that and we'll pick that one. Really handy when you figure out the BSSID one is 50 down in the list. But immediately you can see I went from, let me go back here, give you all those, sorry. Okay, 19 SSIDs to one SSID, and in fact, the only open thing in this whole site across the entire survey is the target guest, right? So you can start to see as we get these security, things in here, the power of these filterings, right? If we were talking about troubleshooting, I'd be talking about channel widths and and adjacent channel interference and things like that, right? But so let's come back in here. Let me go into. Actually, let me come back into here and. Okay, so I'm back to all my security types. So let's go hunt this guy down. He was in the AP section. There he is right there. And here you can see all the APs, right? All the official ones, all the guys with maybe not so official. There's TP-Link somewhere in the mix, right? We could go hunt that down if we wanted to. But let me pick this guy here and, of course, apply him. And you know what? No surprise, he's here in towards the front of the store. In fact, if you really wanted to neck that down, you could pull it in and people are in line. That would be the busiest AP, right? Some extra storefronts in front, all that. So you kind of start to get a sense of that. And in fact, over here, let's see if I get back over here. Over here. Let's see. I can come in here and I can go into the analysis. If I want to understand more about these clients, I can come into the Wi-Fi analysis. So basically on one site, we've got 4 different views going on here. I can quickly go between the topology view, the survey, physically where are things, and then the an analysis view, which is more tabular. This is where we break the world out. It turns out we have all the client information, all the clients we saw, and how they're connected. Obviously, we're showing the topology map, right? But I could come in here and say, okay, let's take this guy here, this AP, and let me see if I can get to T. What is it? It's 0001. There we go. All right. So there.
Hey, James, while you're navigating that, you said you're collecting Bluetooth data, BLE data at the same time, right?
We are, and I don't want to steal too much of Julio's thunder, but I can show you simultaneously. Actually, this one blew us away. 1,800 Bluetooth devices seen on. By the way, this wasn't a dense walk, right? This is literally the as we work our way towards continuous. There goes that light again. Didn't get on that. As we, so we're still discrete, but we had to get the performance improvements in Link Live to handle the additional points, right? So didn't want to get beat up for performance. So there's a little more of a glimpse of the roadmap, but fairly discrete, right? I just kind of walked. I took the map off their website and walked around. So, but yeah, 1,800 BLE devices, just kind of stunning. But if I look at this AP, I can just come in here and say, oh, look, 34 clients, right? That's what we saw on the topology. Because sometimes topology is great for kind of that big visual view, but now I actually want to look at these guys and look, picture some joker with who said his MDNS name is FBI surveillance van, right? And so, but here's all the IP addresses, and you can in fact see the IP addresses are always on the target guest, and then the other zebra scanner guns on there, and these other things. So you can look at things topology wise, you can look at them heat map wise, you can look at them analysis wise, and then lastly is that same discovery. We have sort of the discovery view here, where we just treat everything as a device, right? So this is all stuff I saw just going through a store, hooked to the guest Wi-Fi. Picking up my paper towels. So that's kind of that part. Let me see here. Where was I going to go next here? Let me go to this next tab. One more example here.
Just ask a question, James.
Please.
Just thinking, obviously you've done this using the iMapper feature. Some of that topology data I think would be useful even if you didn't really want to collect survey data. So could you collect the data without a map? So let's say you're just on a site, you don't have a map, and you just want to collect that sort of topology data.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I actually have one of my standard floor plans on all my things is just a piece of grid paper. And for a while, I was playing a game where let me go into any place and just do the four corners of the grid, right? Because you're blown away in some of these places. You're standing in the middle. You're seeing 37 APs, right? And in fact, and Sam educated me on this, right? It's Apple's. I was like, is this the SI's overselling APs? No, Apple wants minus 65 dB or whatever, right? For coverage everywhere. But yeah, the reality is, to me at least, Wi-Fi propagates like crazy, and you can go into almost any facility, and maybe this is contrary to I'm developing the hardcore, heavy, high density coverage and capacity map. I actually think in the security realm, or just getting a sense of what's going on the site, you can do a lot fewer points. And so I was actually doing four corner testing. I'd go into any place I could and just go into the four corners of it and drop the pin there. And you would see the vast majority of the problems. Poor, bad channel assignments, wide channels, crashing into other things, too many things running on minimum basic rates of 1 meg, blah, 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 right? Just go down the punch list of troubleshooting stuff. It didn't have to be this high resolution CAD floor plan with thousands of points. So, all right. So let me, So in fact, and here's a simple one, right? This is a 5-minute survey just in the office here, and kind of, as I was playing around this, just back to my filters, I was like, okay, what's open here, right? And so, and now we went from, I should have shown you that, 50 SSIDs to 3 SSIDs, and then immediately I was like, well, what's this AME3 thing, right? So, because that's nothing I recognize, and then, wow, it's just kind of right in the middle of our office. What's going on, right? And so lo and behold, I went. Pop back over here. So a little anecdotal story on this, right? So this is our side of the office. This is the NetScout side. This is realtors. And by the way, they're just trashing out our space. So we're on this side of the office. So there was a hard division, as we carved out from NetScout, same site, but we basically a new entry for NetScout. Basically did a colo cage in the test lab because it was too much to move it. Took hallways, shut them down. Right, one side or the other got the hallway and the door and turned into a closet space. Right. Well, I walk out and I find this old air magnet sensor that's up on our ceiling still. Right? This is a couple years after the split. There's just this old device sitting there, and really what struck me, because I've seen this time and time again, there's I talked about the provisioning errors. That's one side of it. but the reality is when you're provisioning, you're looking forward, right? You got a new set of users or expectations, and everybody's looking at the new stuff, right? Nobody's ever looking at the old stuff, right? I see this at my car dealership. There's an R in the guest area. There's RJs in these little office cubicles that are still live right into their production network, so I think my lesson out of this was this deprovisioning. Of course, being the guy I am, I jumped up on I said, well, what the heck? I literally jumped up with the Ethoscope. Nice to have a portable here. Unhooked the patch, plugged it in, immediately ran a wired auto test. I could see I was connected to the NetScout networks. Within 60 seconds, I discovered 203 devices, did a topology map, right? Could see devices, switches, conference rooms, everything, right? Just because there was an old sensor left there that nobody ever bothered to clean up. So that's kind of interesting. The last part of this here, because I gotta hand it over to Julio here, is let's come back over here. So this was the site for, let me get my filter out of here, and I could go on and on with this. I mean, the reality is, I was able to do so much discovery and understanding, and if we were talking troubleshooting, right, we'd be talking about rates and this and that and types, but it really does let you, this kind of power of comparison, either in the tables or even in the filtering, since it's progressive, it's quite handy, because when you pick any one thing, we're immediately going to go from 56 APs to 38 APs, right? It's still a lot of B running, I guess. But could pick up these rates. Let's see, pick up that 1 meg. So let's see. So now we're still 36. Okay, yeah. Our Wi-Fi is a cesspool. But so there's this quick walkthrough. At the same time that happened, I did the. Oh man, this thing needs to get out of the way. There we go. I did here's the BLE walkthrough. Julio will go into this into detail, but basically 69 devices discovered, right? And you can use the same location features, right? Like, where's this guy at, right? For example, we should turn the Bluetooth off on him. Well, let's go into names, and let's go into, there it is, there's the TV, and apply that, and then, well, we can kind of see where he is already, right? But basically, boom, and turns out that's our, a little too tight there. Here we go. That's our break room right there. So this is actually a TV in the break room that's sitting there blasting out BLE. But just stunning to me, just like Wi-Fi, how much Bluetooth there is out there. And so that happened at the same time automatically. Don't want to dwell too much on it. And then likewise, I could discover the network at the same time and be like, wow, I'm in our office and there aren't that many people here, but what's going on here with all these things? And then took a look at this, and it turns out it's the Remax next door, right? And so because they're still all in the office, because houses are hot. So Commission trumps COVID. But you can see we're doing simultaneous wired and Wi-Fi discovery at the same time in these topology maps. And then the last thing is, we got the topology in about 6 months ago, and then we said, well, this is such an amazing visualization. But what if, from a security standpoint, what if you kind of want to know what changed over the last day, week, month, or whatever? So historically, right, we would look at a topology map and we'd say, oh, we're coloring devices. Like if I clicked on one of these guys, we're coloring devices by problems. So we were seeing interface errors here, right? And or recent device reboots, or spanning trees flopping around, or you name it, right? There's about a half dozen, more than that, maybe 10 problems we discover on the wireline side. But we said, hey, wouldn't it be great if you could take 2 of these discovery snapshots and say compare these two, and then when you do, you get a new option here. Instead of coloring problems, you can color differences. And so now you can come in and say, hey, since I was here last time, this printer is now not online for whatever reason, and furthermore there's a new host that showed up, right? And of course this will get quite dense. I've made it tighter for the sake of demo, but yeah, here's a new thing. Wow, and it's a TP-Link something. I better go look at that. Where'd that new device come from? So you can see we've taken not only this ability to give you a whole new way to look at your Wi-Fi on a topology basis, but also now we'll let you just look at the changes because it's just easier for us to it's hard to look at 1,000 nodes and see what changed, but so we'll do that heavy lifting for you here. So that's it for me on the security stuff. I think if I came back here, you would see, let's see, what do that. Yeah, let me just close out here and then I'll hand it over. So we have a bunch of use models, right? There's walking around checking your RJs and things like that. And I could do a whole nother spiel on that stuff, right? And then there's sort of this this RF site assessment. Now we have BLE and we've got topology in the mix. But the bottom line is whether you're kind of physically going at the site or you just have somebody do a quick walk around or you drop the unit in, right? You don't need to be on site. It's simple enough. You can push the floor plan down if the unit actually happens to already be there. And then it all goes up into Link Live, and that's where you can really do the button share analysis of heat maps. And but I think there's a lot to be said for heat mapping for security and understanding where things are located. And if you think about it, not to go too much forward on a roadmap, but why can't you look at clients there too, right? So I mean, obviously we're picking them up. We know where they were. We can do triangulation, also something we're looking at. So we're continuing to build out our features on the handhelds, our features in the clouds, the private Link Live, as Sam mentioned, will allow more people to take advantage of these things if their environment doesn't allow it, and we continue to build out on this single walk many views, right? Quick walkthroughs of any place I go, right? And I can look at it as a passive survey at the same time, simultaneously look at it as a one-by-one active. At the same time, we're gathering topology information, and then we also show you aggregated everything we saw, every client, AP, BSSID channel that we saw across the site, or more of a box-oriented view, right? Network element-oriented view, right? All out of this same thing, right? So this is you can see our direction. We're going to continue to build out in this direction. And
yeah, James, I have a quick question related to the clients. So you said that you guys are looking at the clients. Are you looking at like poor performing clients, maybe high retry rates or lower day rates and stuff like this? And so going back to the map, so we can actually pinpoint where they are on the map.
Yeah, in fact, a little bit of a separation. In fact, if I looked at this guy, we are actually detecting the problems. I'm not sure if this is a good guy or not, but let's see. Oh, here's so here's one where while we were looking, we saw he had a frame retry rate that exceeded 40%, right? So we have all the health statistics of retry rates. I think we have this. Let's take a look at this guy. We've got here's an AP that's gone through. This is all the dynamic channel stuff. What's it called? Radio resource management, whatever. 14 channel changes on this guy, right? So he's obviously thrashing, and I don't know how he ended up on 8. But anyway, that's where he was. And so you can see we've got all the Wi-Fi stuff here, and then you could go over to the heat map and see exactly where these things are located. I could tell you, I know that Ruckus is like right smack dab in the middle of the lab, which is our Wi-Fi cesspool. But yeah, so we have all that. Obviously, clients are not going to be as deterministic, right? During the time that we're on that channel, we have to see them talking to the AP. The realtors did a darn good job of filling in the picture, but it's not going to be 100 millisecond beacon, right? It's not going to be as deterministic as an AP, but I think over, as you walk around, we'll do a pretty good job. And so we're just kind of digging in on that right now. But just knowing roughly, being able to locate clients from a security perspective on the heat map, be the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi is a critical next step in our story.
And it has to be relevant too, because sometimes I've seen system reporting issues with client generating like 50% of retries, but the clients only sent 100 frames. So it's not really relevant for us. Like, it also has to take into account how many frames they're generating, what's the signal strength, and try to correlate that data to actually raise a real issue, not just a false positive, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, no, I you're right. It has to be scaled. It can't just be a percentage. So, yeah. So we'll get better at it. We'll start thinking about more thresholds. We're thinking about adding more traffic analysis, obviously, and frame counting and things like that. So we'll have that background information on a per client basis. You can see we just keep expanding the domains we're looking at, and then the depth in each element in each of those. And so, we got our work cut out for us, right? I got tons of things, and like I said, we're in the middle of this, retooling, if you will, around AX, and just learn. It's like, oh, what happened to the 400 nanosecond guard interval on AX? It just ripples through things, and so. We're working on it. We're doing the best we can, and look forward to continuing to always happy to get input from the delegates or anybody really, and we'll keep prioritizing within our resources and do the best we can.
James, quick question here. Follow up on the AX part. Coming up with AX, we're going to see more clients doing OFDMA, doing multi-user MIMO as a native traffic on the downlink, and even probably on the uplink. So how do you guys plan to kind of collect information and data on the network on the run while dealing with OFDMA and uplink multi-user MIMO? Do you guys have any plans for that?
Yeah. So we're right now we're kind of in the middle of just getting we have the driver working. We passed certification. We are, which is a huge step, right, and a huge cost. And so and just kind of going with basic AX, having WPA3 and all the modes. We had to go to a new supplicant for WPA3, and so that was some heavy lifting, and then we had to instrument the supplicant, right? And so we'll look forward to this community giving us some guidance on additional things, sub channels. We'll do the best we can with our client, and we'll continue to have the two radios, which will at least allow us the connection at the same time we have the scanning. So yeah, AX is going to be an ongoing story. And here's the good news: is the radio we chose has a 6E extension, coming up sooner than later. And I think the heavy lifting was actually into AX, right? All the the new modulations and just the whole expansions and capability was about AX, just adding another band, another set of channels to scan through, a lower simplified, right, is going to be, far more straightforward and quicker to market. So, it's been a struggle for us, right? I've had this conversation with some of you and I'm not going to whine about it, but, the reality is the vendors, just for all their, hey, be a company Z insider, and here's our swag, you start talking to them about access to their chipsets and drivers, and it's kind of like, oh, you don't want to sell 500,000 a year, talk to the hand. We've tried playing hey, look, we're trying to make Wi-Fi better for everybody, and we're in the test business. We're not just another toaster trying to get on the internet, but it just doesn't seem to make a difference, right? So a lot of our struggle has been just getting kind of the collaboration that I think happened in previous generations of radios to happen in the current climate. So that's and then just supply chain stuff too is been problematic, right? Just getting prototype boards, just keeping the things you're currently shipping, right? And let alone introducing a new product in this climate, right? Because a lot of your resources are busy just trying to locate parts to keep things going, or quickly characterizing and qualifying alternative parts, right? This has just been, it's been an interesting, couple of years, right? First building out the brand, and about the time we thought, okay, we got a beachhead here, and then COVID hit, and then we thought, okay, all right, we've made it through COVID, things are still good, and now it's just this supply chain thing, right? Just doesn't seem to get easier, but but as you can see, we did a fair amount in the last year. I'm pretty proud of what we've delivered. So,
hey, James, can I ask you a question? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just on that point. So one can collect a lot of information at the access point without going on site. Can you talk a little bit about this tool and what you get that's better because you're actually walking the site, so we can kind of compare it with something more automated?
Yeah, sure. The reality is we're reproducing the client, right? And I get the network for monitoring, and there's a certain class of problems that can be fixed there, right? But when like I've watched so many of the webinars from the people that are here, right? And so now the warehouse has cans of paint in it, or what's really happening with the roaming performance in that stairwell, right? Or on and on and on. I mean, it's really about the client perspective, and then and allowing you movement, and then also being sort of vendor agnostic, right? And so that you're not locked in. So if you go to different sites with different technologies, you've got the same method of operation.
And one follow-up question to that. I was at a site recently at a school where they'd painted all the walls with that whiteboard paint, right? And it was causing some challenges. Do you pick up things like that as well on this from a client perspective, like when certain RF environments are causing problems?
Well, yeah, we do. We have noise, we have non-utilization. You might see as you move to the other side of that wall that the radio is getting a little twitchy. We show you roam scans, right? And then all the BSS IDs we saw on the roam scan, that's all in the connection log, and so you can kind of start to understand that the radio is getting a little twitchy. You can control the roam threshold, of course, in the product, and so you might see it in roaming. You might see it in the connection speeds, the TX rate. Things like that. I think, but there again, that's where you would figure that out with you kind of need that portable device, right? You're not going to see that off of a bunch of APs up on the ceiling.
Yeah, right. That's what I was thinking. So that's great. Thanks, James.
Yeah.